Transport and public health will bear the brunt of upcoming local authority cuts. The County Councils Network says if ministers don't step in, England's largest authorities will be under pressure to slash next year's budgets by nearly £1 billion. We can cross now to our studio in Stoke and speak to Councillor Philip Atkins, who's Vice Chairman of the County Councils Network and leader of Staffordshire County Council. That's a Conservative-run council, I believe, that yesterday outlined plans for £35 million worth of cuts to its 2019-2020 budget. And is even something like that going to balance the books for you?
It will do well, not quite next year, but over the next 5 years, we do end up with a balanced budget. But it's extremely difficult. Decisions will have to be taken at the February council meeting. And yesterday was a heads up for everybody about how difficult it was and what we were looking at to make those savings for next year. This year we're all right, but looking forward, county councils as a whole have to save next year £1 billion and over the coming years about £3.8 billion from pressures, particularly on adult and children's social care.
Well, when councils, let's talk about that in a bit more detail, are talking about only being able to give local people a core offering, what would remain and perhaps more importantly, what would go?
Well, local government finance is extremely complex in the way that councils are funded. Everybody thinks council tax is one part of it, there's business rates and fees and charges, but the way that it's allocated across the country is very, very complex. So council tax has a bigger element in the Shire counties than it does in London, for example. But we also have the pressures that councils have, and upper tier authorities, as we call them, like county councils, who are responsible for social care for both a growing adult population of frail elderly and an increasing number of children who are in looked after care. They have all the pressures and they have a diminishing income. So we have to balance our books. It's a legal requirement. So when we do that, we end up looking at a very small range of services that we can make reductions in service. So we're looking at things like highway maintenance, the public health sector. There's things like street scene, whether we can cut the grass as many times. School crossing patrols is something we're looking at in Staffordshire, and how we can actually get things down into a lower level of local government. So maybe other councils could step up to the plate, or communities, and do those services that we all value. You know, we've managed to keep our 43 libraries open in Staffordshire, but 20 of them, and then we will end up with about 27 run by the communities themselves. We will provide the books,
this is big society stepping up, is it?
Will look after the buildings.
Let me just bring you, I was just saying perhaps this is harking back to David Cameron's idea of big society needing to step in and step up to keep things running.
Well, there is an element of that about how communities can help themselves. You know, we've been very keen on personal responsibility so that we can concentrate on those who really need our help. And that means that if we can help people to help themselves and also support their communities, that will be a great help for the future. But in Staffordshire, I know the figures off the top of my head, we have 1,117 looked after children, 2,497 elderly frail in care homes. We have 6,446 people with long-term conditions who need daily help. And we have about 1,500 people with learning disabilities. They cost a lot of money to take care of, and that's where over 50% of our funds are now targeted.
Councillor Atkins, thank you very much for your time today, Vice Chairman of the County Councils Network. Let me just read